Hayim v'livracha, to life and to blessings. Mm. Welcome, folks. The Garden of Eden. Of course, there is the physical Garden of Eden of Adam and Eve. And then there's the spiritual Garden of Eden. The physical Garden of Eden down here at that time was a reflection of the spiritual Garden of Eden. It was a perfect world, but it was a world that God created, and that perfect world is not what God wants. God wants an imperfect world that we work to perfect. Are we going back to the Garden of Eden? No, we're going to even greater, the times of Mashiach, messianic times, of where there won't be war, there won't be famine, won't be greed. The presence of God will be palpable and real and very obvious. But before we get there, there's still the Garden of Eden. But that Garden of Eden is in the spiritual realm, not in the physical. It's where our souls go after our time here on earth. God willing that we're here minimally 120 years. How do we get there? What gets us there? To the Garden of Eden. Not to make a mistake and to think for a moment that that's the purpose, as in other faiths, right? If you'll be a martyr, then you'll get, in the world to come, 72. They made a mistake. 72 Virginians. Not even that. Oh, you get the point. Another faith is, you get heaven, not hell. What gets you there? Your faith, what you believe. If you believe in a certain individual, then that's your ticket to heaven, to the Garden of Eden. Doesn't matter what you did in your lifetime, and what you believed. Likewise, in the other, being a martyr doesn't matter. Did you do good? Well, maybe good is just defined by how many you remove from this world. There's something that's unsettling about that. Now, of course, everybody can believe as they choose to believe. But, and I definitely don't choose to believe those forms at all. So then what does get us to Gan Eden? What gets our soul that in the afterlife, it's not in a hellhole, if you will, in Gehenna as it's called, but to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We continue in the 29th letter where the Alter Rebbe is speaking of very deep Kabbalistic ideas and trying to bring them down to earth and make them palatable, that we can grasp it, understand it. So we spoke about the divine will of God is the mitzvah. And the mitzvah, 613 biblical laws and 7 rabbinic laws, makes 620, are the kesser, the crown, the royal supernal will of God, of what he wants, all encompassing. He wants it, not for a reason, just because he wants it. He wants tefillin, he wants charity, he wants Shabbos, he wants kosher. Right? That's what he wants. And that creates a light of God that embraces us when we do the act of the mitzvah, in the act of doing what God wants, right? And that's the pillar that holds up this world, this home that we create for God, right? That has got a crown that's the capital of the beam that holds up the ceiling, the heavens, and it's then rooted and touches the ground, and meaning that through our acts of things that are grounded in the material physical world, like, wearing physical tzitzis, right? Physical tefillin that we put on, physical money that we give as charity. Just a reminder, we're still in our campaign of matching campaign, right? There's actual money. Today, money is like, you transfer it from here to there. It's almost like not physical. Well, it is physical because that money could have been used to buy your own pleasurable and your own pleasure and comfort for your life, and now you give it to someone else, right? That's tzedakah, that's charity. So all of that is what we need to do that connects us to the divine will. So as the Alter Rebbe explains, that allows us that from the divine will, that when our soul goes into Gan Eden, the physical act of the mitzvah, which includes in Torah study, by the way, also has a physical act, and prayer that has a physical act, and that's called speech. It's a minor form of action, but it's called action, as opposed to meditation. If you just meditate on prayer, you just meditate on Torah studies and don't verbalize at all, right? Then you are lacking in the mitzvah. So, for example, to say a prayer and you don't verbalize it, like if I would, just meditate upon the coffee, that this is God animating it and giving it life, and I'd be very imbued with that, I still can't drink it until I verbalize a prayer. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shehakol niheh bidvaroi. I'd said it without God's name because I've already said the prayer on this. So it needs to be verbalized, right? By doing so, I have the act of the mitzvah, or by the act of putting on the tefillin. That will then create a garment for me that in the lower level of Gan Eden, which is in the world of Yetzirah, the spiritual world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, that my soul after 120 will now have divine pleasure, a ray of light from the divine that will bring pleasure to my soul. Now, we really don't experience pleasure to our soul when we do a mitzvah. We may have a passion to make a blessing. We may have a passion in putting on tefillin, giving charity. But the experience of the soul, the delight in the divine, we're not really privy to that. And we're not experiencing it today. But our soul will, in Gan Eden, after 120, that which we do today, because we create a garment that will, from the mitzvah, that will allow us to have the pleasure of the divine from just doing the act of the mitzvah or the verbalization of the prayer, will bring my soul to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden, where I will have divine pleasure and connection to the divine because of the mitzvah I do today. Right? Because again, it creates that garment that allows me then to be in that holy element. The sun is shining very bright over there of divine God, divine revelation. And for me, be able to take the sun, you need sunglasses, you need a garment, right? That will shield out, that will give me the capability of experiencing the divine pleasure. If, though, when I do the acts of the mitzvah, I add to it kavana, intent, to connect to God, and I have a love and reverence and awe in the act of the mitzvah, then my soul will not be in the lower level of Gan Eden, in the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, but my soul will go into the world of Bria, a higher world of creation, spiritual creation. And my soul will be there to gain even greater pleasantness. Ref SZN, soon, not right now, a few minutes. Greater pleasantness, greater delight in the higher world will come then to those souls who served and did the mitzvahs, not just the act of the mitzvah, but they did it with a great radiance of intent, kavana, of love and awe of God. And God, that's superior devotion, because God, that's his divine will, that the act of the mitzvah should be, infused with intent, mindfulness, heartfulness, right? As we learned in the first part of Tanya in chapter 38 at length. So it comes out in Judaism. It's your actions of doing what God needs from you in this world. His mitzvahs is what earns us, or creates, not earns, not the right word. The other way it earns, this doesn't earn, we create that garment that allows the soul to have the divine pleasure. Because what is the cause of the divine will? What's the cause of my will? Pleasure. When you have a pleasure in something, you have a desire for that thing. So God has a pleasure in what? Mitzvah. Which causes him to have the will that then is expressed in 613 biblical commandments, 7 rabbinic laws that become the crown of the king, the will of God, that by fulfilling that will, we get to the pleasure, which is what compels and brings about the will, the divine will. Very powerful idea. Any questions, any comments? We had an amazing class last night in JLI. Those who still want to join the course, let me know. You have to private message me either on Messenger, I'll get it, email. Best thing is via email. Or if you don't have my email, rabbi@chabadzichrain.com. Other ways I don't see so much, I'll be quite honest. I don't look. Even Messenger, I really don't look so much. Or, WhatsApp me. Yeah, phenomenal. Okay, I don't see Rambam coming up right now. Let's see. No. Okay, amazing. Thank you. All right, folks.